It is 3 a.m. You are asleep, and then you hear it. That unmistakable guttural hack, hack, hack coming from somewhere near your bedroom door. You know exactly what it means before you even open your eyes. You lie there for a second, hoping it stops on its own, hoping this is the one time it does not end with a wet slap on your hardwood floor. It is not. By the time you get up and turn the hallway light on, your cat is standing over a slimy, tube-shaped mass on the rug you just had cleaned, looking at you with an expression that somehow manages to be both apologetic and completely unbothered. You clean it up. You always clean it up. This week it has happened 4 times. 4 times you have knelt down with a paper towel, breathing through your mouth, scrubbing at a stain that never fully comes out of the fibers. Your cat's coat has started looking a little duller than it used to. You have noticed little bald patches forming near the base of the tail, and sometimes you catch her mid-lick, chewing at her own fur like she's trying to pull something loose that will not come. You have done everything you were told to do. You bought the specialty hairball control kibble that costs almost double your old bag. You picked up a tube of that malt-flavored hairball gel from the pet store, the one with a bright yellow label promising fast relief, and you have been squeezing a dab onto her paw every single day like the label says. You even bought one of those self-grooming brushes, shaped like an arch, that she's supposed to rub against on her own. For about 2 weeks, things seemed calmer. The hacking slowed down. You started to believe you had finally solved it. And then it came back. Worse than before. Now she is not just vomiting hairballs. She is dry heaving in between them, gagging with nothing coming up at all. You took her to the vet, and you walked out with a bill for over $300 after they ran blood work and an x-ray just to rule out a blockage. The vet told you she looked fine for now, handed you a laxative paste, and sent you home with a shrug and a just keep an eye on her. You are exhausted. You are cleaning carpets every other day. And you are no closer to actually understanding why this keeps happening. What if I told you that hairballs are not actually caused by hair? What if the fur your cat swallows during grooming was never the real problem to begin with? And the actual root cause has almost nothing to do with how much she grooms and everything to do with something happening deep inside her digestive tract? Today, I'm going to walk you through the real biological reason hairballs keep coming back no matter what remedy you throw at them, the precise, natural, step-by-step method to fix it from the inside out, the critical mistakes that make popular hairball products backfire, and the one overlooked habit that is quietly making the entire problem worse every single day. Hi everyone, I am Dr. Andrew Collins, and I have spent the last several years working almost exclusively with feline patients. Chronic hairball vomiting is one of the most common complaints I hear from cat owners, and it is also one of the most misunderstood. Most people treat it like an inevitable fact of cat ownership, something you just have to live with because that's what cats do. Today we're doing a complete deep dive on why that assumption is wrong. Grab a notebook because by the end of this video you're going to understand exactly what is happening inside your cat's gut, and you are going to walk away with a full natural protocol you can start using today. Let's start with what a hairball actually is, because almost nobody explains this correctly. Every time your cat grooms herself, her tongue is covered in tiny backward-facing barbs called papillae. Those papillae catch loose fur and pull it directly into her mouth, and from there it gets swallowed. This is completely normal. Cats have been doing this for thousands of years, and in a healthy digestive system, that swallowed fur is supposed to simply pass all the way through the intestines and come out the other end in the litter box, mixed in with the stool, completely unnoticed. You are not supposed to see it. You're not supposed to hear that hacking sound at all. So here's the real question nobody asks. If swallowing fur is normal and it is supposed to pass through without any issue, why is your cat vomiting it back up instead? The answer is not about how much hair she is swallowing. The answer is about gut motility. And this is the part that changes everything. Think of your cat's digestive tract like a conveyor belt. When that belt is moving at a healthy, steady pace, anything that lands on it, food, fur, anything, gets carried smoothly from one end to the other and off it goes. But the moment that belt slows down, even slightly, things start to pile up. Fur that would have moved through easily now sits still long enough to clump together with other fur, with mucus, with whatever else happens to be sitting in the stomach at the time. And once it clumps into a dense enough mass, it becomes too large and too compact to continue down the conveyor belt at all. At that point, your cat's body has exactly one option left to get rid of it, and that option is vomiting it back up the way it came in. This is why some cats groom just as much as any other cat and never produce a single hairball, while other cats seem to produce one every week. It was never really about the amount of fur. It is about how efficiently that fur is moving through the gut. And gut motility in cats is driven primarily by one factor that almost no hairball product on the shelf actually addresses: fiber and hydration. Here's the biology behind it. Insoluble fiber acts almost like a physical broom inside the intestines. As it moves through the digestive tract, it adds bulk and texture to the material passing through, and that bulk stimulates the intestinal walls to contract in a rhythmic, coordinated way. That contraction is what actually pushes everything, food, waste, and, yes, swallowed fur, steadily toward the exit. Without adequate fiber, those contractions become weak and inconsistent. Material moves sluggishly, and any fur sitting in that sluggish environment has all the time in the world to clump together into a mass. Hydration plays an equally critical role. Water is what keeps everything moving through the intestines soft and slick. A dehydrated gut produces drier, harder waste that moves more slowly and gives fur even more opportunity to bind together instead of sliding through. And this is where most cat owners are working against themselves without realizing it, because the vast majority of cats today are fed almost exclusively dry kibble, a food that contains roughly 10% moisture, compared to the 70 to 75% moisture content found in a cat's natural prey-based diet. A cat eating only dry food is functionally living in a state of mild chronic dehydration every single day of her life, and most owners have no idea this is happening because she is still drinking from her water bowl and still looks perfectly normal on the outside. So the cycle runs like this. Low fiber and low hydration slow the gut's conveyor belt down. The slowed conveyor belt allows swallowed fur to sit still long enough to clump together. The clump grows too large to pass through normally. The body vomits it back up as the only remaining option. And every single hairball control product marketed to treat this, the malt paste, the flavored gel, the specialty kibble, only works if it actually addresses that underlying motility problem, and most of them barely touch it. I had a client bring in a 5-year-old domestic longhair named Willow who was vomiting hairballs an average of 3 to 4 times a week. This owner had tried 2 different malt-based remedies, prescription hairball control diet, and had been using a de-shedding brush religiously every single day for over 2 months with almost no improvement. Willow's stool was noticeably dry and hard, which was actually the biggest clue in the entire case. I walked the owner through the exact natural fiber and hydration protocol I'm about to show you, changing nothing else about the daily grooming routine. At the 3-week recheck, the hairball frequency had dropped from 3 to 4 times a week down to roughly once every 10 days. By week 6, Willow had gone almost 3 full weeks without a single episode. Nothing about how much fur Willow was swallowing had changed. What changed was how efficiently her gut was moving that fur through. Now let's walk through exactly how to do this correctly, because done wrong, this protocol either produces no noticeable results, or in the case of certain ingredients, can actually cause new digestive upset. The single most effective, most overlooked tool here is plain canned pumpkin, specifically 100% pure pumpkin puree with absolutely nothing else added. Not pumpkin pie filling, not a blend with added sugar or spices. The label must say 100% pumpkin and nothing more. Pumpkin is an extraordinary source of both soluble and insoluble fiber, and it carries a naturally high water content that directly addresses both halves of the problem we just talked about, motility and hydration, in a single spoonful. The correct amount is 1 teaspoon of plain canned pumpkin mixed into your cat's food once daily for an adult cat under 10 pounds, and up to 1 tablespoon daily for a larger cat over 12 pounds. Most owners assume more is automatically better, so they start dumping in far too much on day 1. What actually happens with an oversized dose is that it overwhelms the gut in the opposite direction, causing loose stool and diarrhea, which paradoxically increases fluid loss and can leave your cat just as dehydrated as before you started. Start with half of the recommended amount for the first 3 days, and let her digestive system adjust gradually before working up to the full dose. Mix the pumpkin directly into wet food if your cat eats any. If your cat is exclusively a dry food eater, this is actually one of the most important pieces of this entire protocol, because it gives you a built-in opportunity to introduce moisture at the same time. Mix the teaspoon of pumpkin with a small splash of water or unsalted plain bone broth, roughly 1 to 2 tablespoons, and either pour it directly over the kibble or offer it in a separate small dish alongside the meal. This single change begins correcting the chronic mild dehydration that dry food creates, and it does it in a way your cat will actually accept, because most cats find that broth genuinely appealing rather than something they have to be tricked into eating. Alongside the pumpkin, increasing your cat's overall water intake matters just as much. Cats evolved from desert-dwelling ancestors, and as a result, they have a notoriously weak natural thirst drive. Many cats simply will not drink enough from a standard bowl to make up the difference, no matter how often you refill it. A pet water fountain that keeps water moving and aerated encourages significantly more voluntary drinking in most cats, because moving water mimics the flowing streams their instincts are drawn toward, compared to the stagnant water sitting in a bowl. If a fountain is not an option, simply adding a small amount of water directly into every meal, wet or dry, accomplishes much of the same goal. There's one more layer to this that most hairball advice completely skips over, and it explains why some cats still struggle even after fiber and water are dialed in. A healthy population of gut bacteria is what actually keeps that conveyor belt contracting on schedule. When the gut microbiome is out of balance, whether from a recent illness, a course of antibiotics, or simply years of a low-fiber diet, the intestinal contractions we talked about earlier become weaker and less predictable, even with plenty of fiber and water available. This is why adding a feline-specific probiotic, one formulated specifically for cats rather than a human supplement, can meaningfully speed up results. Look for one containing Enterococcus faecium or bifidobacterium strains, sprinkled over food once daily according to the dosage on the label. Give it 2 to 3 weeks running alongside the pumpkin protocol before expecting to see a difference, since rebuilding a bacterial population is a gradual process, not an instant fix. It is also worth ruling out one other contributor before you assume this is purely a fiber and hydration issue. Cats who are anxious, bored, or dealing with an underlying skin allergy will sometimes overgroom far beyond what is normal, essentially swallowing several times the fur volume of a typical cat. If you notice grooming that looks compulsive, repetitive licking in the same 1 or 2 spots until the fur thins or disappears entirely, that is worth mentioning to your veterinarian separately, because in that specific scenario, the fiber protocol still helps the gut move fur through more efficiently, but it will not fully resolve the problem until the underlying anxiety or allergy driving the excessive grooming is addressed as well. One critical warning here: never substitute pumpkin pie filling for plain pumpkin. Pumpkin pie filling contains added sugar and often contains nutmeg. And nutmeg is toxic to cats, even in small quantities. Always double check the label before adding anything to your cat's bowl. And if you are ever uncertain, plain pured pumpkin sold specifically as a baking ingredient, not a dessert filling, is always the safe choice. Brushing still matters, but the timing and technique are not what most owners assume. Brushing during an active shedding period, which for most cats intensifies in spring and fall, reduces the total volume of loose fur available to be swallowed during self-grooming in the first place. Use a stainless steel comb rather than a slicker brush for the undercoat, working in the direction of hair growth in short, gentle strokes. 2 to 3 short sessions a week of just 5 minutes each is far more effective and far better tolerated by most cats than one long, stressful session that leaves her irritated enough to overgroom later out of pure agitation. Here is your complete action plan. Step 1. Confirm what you are actually dealing with. Check your cat's stool in the litter box. If it looks noticeably dry, hard, or pellet-like rather than well-formed and moist, that is a clear sign her hydration and fiber levels need correcting, and it directly supports everything we just covered. Step 2. Begin the pumpkin protocol the same day. Half a teaspoon for the first 3 days for a smaller cat, working up to a full teaspoon daily after that, mixed with a small amount of water or plain broth if she eats dry food. Step 3. Address hydration directly, whether that means a water fountain, added water in every meal, or both. Step 4. Brush 2 to 3 times a week during shedding season using a stainless steel comb rather than relying on grooming tools alone to solve it. Step 5. Monitor honestly. Within 2 to 3 weeks, stool consistency should visibly improve, and hairball frequency should begin dropping noticeably. Give the full protocol 4 to 6 weeks before judging whether it is working, because gut motility changes gradually, not overnight. Step 6, and this is genuinely important. Know when this is no longer something you should manage at home. If your cat is straining to vomit repeatedly with nothing coming up, if she becomes lethargic, stops eating, or you notice a hard, painful swelling in her abdomen, these can be signs of an intestinal blockage, which is a true emergency and requires immediate veterinary attention, not a home remedy. Hairballs happening once or twice a month are considered within a normal range for most cats. Anything happening weekly or more often is your body telling you something upstream needs correcting, and now you know exactly what that something is. A cat who is constantly vomiting hairballs is not simply a cat with a lot of fur. She is a cat whose gut is not moving the way it is supposed to, and that is something you have real direct power to change. You do not need an expensive prescription diet or a cabinet full of gels and pastes to fix this. You need adequate fiber, adequate hydration, and a little bit of consistency. Fix the conveyor belt, and the fur takes care of itself the way it was always designed to. You watched this entire video because you refuse to accept that scrubbing carpet stains is just part of owning a cat. That tells me exactly what kind of cat parent you are. If this gave you the clarity you have been searching for, hit the like button right now. It genuinely helps this reach other cat owners stuck in the same exhausting cycle. Subscribe so you never miss a deep dive like this one, and leave me a comment below. How often is your cat throwing up hairballs right now, and have you tried adding pumpkin before? I read every single comment, and I love hearing how it goes. Give your cat a little scratch under the chin for me tonight and stay consistent.